Technology has come a long way in the film industry. There are some movies these days that can't be made with some use of visual effects. There are even films that had to create new technology in order for the movie to come alive. As you know, there is a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and in this video we'll shed a little light on some of those moments. Get ready to learn some things about movies you may not have known before. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join our notification squad to stay current with other great videos. And can you guess which feature film these emojis are referencing? Find out shortly following the video. Now, let's get started. Henry Cavill, Superman. Superman is the most powerful but also the most vulnerable superhero around. He is a conflicted, lonely, and lost person. When Zack Snyder directed Man of Steel in 2013, his vision was to make Superman a relatable character and to make him seem more down to earth. Although he may be more relatable to us, Henry Cavill, the actor who portrays Superman, is very much a human and has no superpowers. A lot of work is done behind the scenes to create this using CGI. One shot that was released is where he is strung up with wires, arms and legs outstretched like the way Superman flies. Even the cape he wears isn't real and is created by computers as well. Probably something that actors would rather you not see, but this is part of the magic that happens behind the scenes. Perhaps you remember from Man of Steel when Superman had to lift a steel beam? Well, that moment was also captured behind the scenes in front of a green screen with Cavill with his shirt off. Cavill bulked up to play the Man of Steel, but even he can't hold up that much steel. Keep hitting the weights, Henry.
They're here. And I cannot step foot on land again for near of a decade. You'll trust them.
Bill Nighy, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. Are there any others out there that are a little creeped out by Bill Nighy's character, Davey Jones, in Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest? There's just something a little eerie about all those tentacles on his face. Have you ever been curious as to how they made that possible? There are a few pictures floating around that shed some light on it. While it wasn't as extensive as Mark Ruffalo's face for the Hulk, Nighy only had a few motion capture dots placed on his face with some yellow makeup around his eyes and mouth. He also wore a motion capture headband around his head. It was definitely a challenge to get all of the 46 writhing tentacles of his beard just right. Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest proves to be one of the most ambitious projects that Industrial Light and Magic had taken on at the time after being around for 30 years. They shot right at 1,000 visual effects shots, almost triple of the number they used for The Curse of the Black Pearl. Davey Jones and his whole crew of 17 transmogrified were digital creations that had to blend in seamlessly with the flesh and blood actors. Andy Serkis, Caesar, Rise of the Planet of the Apes. If any of you have seen the new Planet of the Apes movies with Andy Serkis starring as Caesar, the main ape, you would agree that the CGI is pretty breathtaking. The apes look extremely realistic thanks to the technology that is at our disposal these days. Serkis monkeys around, or rather apes around, in a gray spandex suit studded with motion capture markers, and wears a helmet equipped with an arm that holds 4 tiny cameras less than a foot away from his face. The cameras capture his eyes and facial expressions via 52 dots painted on the actor's face. Unlike the Planet of the Apes movies from the past that relied on costumes and prosthetics, they use the groundbreaking performance capture technology that was created for James Cameron's Avatar. The technology used is some pretty cool stuff, and the actors are basically puppeteering an electronic skeleton in real time. They can see the simplified CG puppets moving in synchronicity, and they use real-time playback to check what they're doing to get the best performance possible. The markers on their faces are tracked by the head cams, which have tiny little LED lights all around them in great detail. If it weren't for technology these days, the remake of the Planet of the Apes would be an even harder project.
If it's so simple, why haven't you done it already?
If you're good at something, never do it for free.
Heath Ledger, the Joker. Heath Ledger gave us one of the best performances as the Joker in Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight. If any more movies are made with one of the most iconic villains, it will be very hard to one-up Ledger's performance. Jared Leto didn't come close in Suicide Squad, and it's tough to say if anyone ever will. The news of Ledger's death shocked the world, and everyone who was a fan of the movie was saddened by it. We were all so looking forward to more great performances in the future, and he was taken away too soon. Do you remember one of the last encounters between the Joker and Batman where the Joker is hanging upside down from a building? Well, believe it or not, Ledger was actually on top of a building. For safety purposes, they did it in front of a green screen, and one behind-the-scenes shot shows it. It looks like they set up a wooden rafter and had Heath dangling just a few feet off the ground with a grin on his face. Not seeing the picture, there would have been no way in telling that the cityscape background was all computer-generated. What was your favorite part of Ledger's performance? SURAJ SHARMA, Life of Pi. There was nothing easy about making Life of Pi, the Oscar award-winning film directed by Ang Lee. The film was adapted for the big screen from the book by the same name written by Jan Martel. If you don't know the story, it is about a young Indian man named Pi who survives a shipwreck and is hurtled into an epic journey of adventure and survival on nothing more than a small lifeboat. His only company is a fearsome Bengal tiger named Richard Parker. The crew for the movie had to build the world's largest wave pool in the film history and create an entire storyline around a boy on a boat with a tiger. The actor who plays Pi, SURAJ SHARMA, didn't even know how to swim. The entire film was also shot in 3D, not partially in 2D. The behind-the-scenes shots of Life of Pi really show you what filming the movie looked like, and you see how much the digital effects played a big role in making the movie. One picture in particular shows Sharma standing atop the boat in the wave pool surrounded by nothing but blue walls, which were later created into the sky. It's pretty amazing that they shot a majority of the movie from that one space. Sandra Bullock, Gravity. Gravity, released in 2013 starring Sandra Bullock and George Clooney, relied heavily on digital effects since it took place in outer space. It took 4 years for Gravity to finally come to life due to typical filmmaking challenges. It was also because they had to go through the process of inventing new technology to make the movie possible. It's not a film that could have been made before now. One behind-the-scenes picture shows Bullock in front of a white backdrop working on a contraption that was later digitally created into part of the ship she was working on while floating in space. Even things such as her watch, gloves, face mask, and oxygen tank on her back were computer-generated. There's also another great shot of Clooney and Bullock together dressed in their white spacesuits tethered to a pole. For many CGI actors who are in CGI-heavy films, the end result can seem a little odd, like their work is very small inside a story they don't recognize. Bullock never saw the stars, space shuttle, or Clooney's side. She had no idea what the music was or even what she looked like in the suit. It would be a very interesting experience indeed.
My name is Mr. Charles. You remember me, don't you? I'm the head of your security down here.
Leonardo DiCaprio, Inception. Christopher Nolan and his team pulled off some amazing things. People are also discussing the movie as a whole and what exactly happened at the end. There are still fan theories floating around out there. It is one of those movies that leaves a lasting impression long after the credits have rolled. You may remember the scene in which DiCaprio and Ellen Page first go into a dream together and are walking through the city. There is a behind-the-scenes picture that captures one of these moments. It is when Paige begins to manipulate the city and folds it in half. She and Cobb step onto a street that turned vertical. The picture shows the two of them in a makeshift contraption that resembles a cage with a green screen in the background. There is another scene in which Leo goes out a window and scales one floor below. Surprisingly, the building is all an elaborate prop created for the scene, and there is a picture depicting it.
I'm anxious to get up to you. Thanks for coming back for me.
Matt Damon, The Martian. The Martian, starring Matt Damon, released in 2015, tells the story of astronaut Mark Watney, who is stranded on Mars after his team assumes he is dead after a violent storm. He ends up surviving and has to rely on his ingenuity to survive on the red planet until he can find a way to contact Earth and get help. Ridley Scott adapted the movie from the book of the same name written by Andy Weir in 2011. While it isn't as special effects heavy as, say, Gravity, they are still used a lot. It would be hard to simulate Mars without the use of technology. 7 days were spent filming in the Wadi Rum Valley in Jordan, which has been used for other movies that are based on Mars. One behind-the-scenes photo shows Damon in his spacesuit hunched down on what is supposed to be Martian soil and has a massive green screen in the background. There is also another where he is by his Mars rover with another green screen which is only used to create the sky. It's pretty cool that they were able to make the rover in shelters from real material and not rely too much on computers. Benedict Cumberbatch, Doctor Strange. If you've seen the 2016 release of Doctor Strange, you would probably agree that it is a very visually striking movie. One that relies heavily on special effects, mostly due to the fact that the characters can physically manipulate the world around them. The movie would have been tough or nearly impossible to make without them. There are some interesting behind-the-scenes photos that show what it looked like before the scenes were computer-generated. It also has one of the more interesting storylines of any superhero movies and touches on subjects that are rarely talked about in other movies. One picture that's pretty interesting is the first time that Doctor Strange shows up in the hospital to see Christine, played by Rachel McAdams, after he has been stabbed. He travels by sling ring to create a portal to wherever he wants to go. It looks as though the portal is created by using a large hula hoop-like contraption that is housed with tons of lights and a green screen in the background. Another cool picture and little-known fact is that when Doctor Strange puts on the cloak of levitation for the first time, did you know that Benedict Cumberbatch was a digital representation of himself for that scene and not just his cape? Pretty cool, right? You can't even see the difference. Mark Ruffalo, the Hulk. So you probably already know that Mark Ruffalo can't really turn into the big green guy on screen. Have you seen what it takes to make him into the Hulk? There are multiple behind-the-scenes shots of him dressed in the suit that is used to digitally create the superhero, also called motion capture. It definitely looks like something out of a futuristic movie of sorts. It's tight, has an interesting pattern, and then Ruffalo has tons of dots on his face to capture his facial movements. Since the actor is not dressed in a costume like others are, he really has to get into his character's head to make it seem realistic. The team also worked with Mark to keep him grounded, and he was able to play with his digital avatar before going on set. This was done so he could see himself as the Hulk beforehand. They also put weights on and inhibitors on him to simulate what it might be like to have huge guns. Ruffalo was also equipped with a sound system to pitch modulate his voice so he could hear the enormous Hulk roar coming from the speakers. It gave Mark the sense of feeling better, and if he felt better, he was able to give a better performance. Well, what did you think of this list? Have you seen or heard of any of these behind-the-scenes moments? If you've been waiting for the answer to the movie emoji, it is... Well, did you get it right? Be sure and let us know in the comments below. If you haven't seen our playlist, be sure to scope that out as well. Thanks for watching.